Normally what happens in most cases is that he's working on a project by himself and he needs he needs something which I've already done in my project. And because it's open source, we can just share it with each other without even using money as a tool. But just me saying you can just use my source code. There's no, because it's, there's a concept of copyleft. You can use my source code for free. In effect, the only rule is that when you distribute it, you also have to keep it free. So it's just a recursive effect we have. So when they contribute, so the thing is they will use our source code, but what happens is, even if they're selfish, they would want to contribute back because they know if they contribute more, the quality of the source code improves. People think there's no leeway for efficiency, but if you have competition, you will find ways to cut your costs. And if it's too competitive, you'll find more opportunities. So people will move, and it creates this balance between if it's over competitive or not competitive. And free market is the best way to have a balanced society. Jobs. You see, everyone has a LinkedIn profile, which is a waste of time. I'm not on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But you just see people saying, I'm good at this and this and this, and it's all short-term projects. It's rare to see someone with a very long-term project because they don't have to be on LinkedIn if they are. They have contacts, connections, they know exactly who, and when they're hiring, for example, I know exactly who I want. I don't have to put a job post online. If you're using an LLM to write something and another person's using an LLM to respond to you, that procedure shouldn't exist in the first place. You cancel out. That's what you should be doing in a company if you're running efficiently. Only the free market can fix this because such companies would not exist because they'll be too bureaucratic.
Hello and welcome to WS Podcast. My name is Wojtek, as per usual, and I have a friend called Akilan here.
Akilan, that's right.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And I don't know what we're going to talk about today. We have some ideas. Let's see what happens.
Let's go with the flow.
Maybe let's start easy.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself to our listeners?
So I am Akilan. I'm a PhD student / I work on my own open source projects, which is, for example, hosting your own servers. So simple IT stuff. We'll move on. We will talk about that more in depth as we prolong further. But you can just think of me as just a computer scientist to start with. And then you can phrase your opinions as we keep moving.
Nice. And you play tennis. That's how I met you, because you play tennis with my friend Lucia from work.
Yes.
Yeah, and we met at her flat warming. So yeah, I mean, you know, guys, as it's often the case on the show, I invite people that seem interesting. This is not to take away from those that are not invited, but that seem interesting, and we've had a really cool conversation at the housewarming event. We talked a little bit about your experience living in Dubai, our family ideas and stuff, and briefly about economy and your business.
Yep.
So where would you like to start? Shall we start with your business background or Dubai?
We can start with Dubai.
Okay.
Start. So I can say I grew up in Dubai. I was born in 1999. So I've seen the city grow completely from nothing to what it is today, and it's an example of a very nice capitalistic city where everything is just capitalism. You lose your job, you have to leave, and it's a sort of high-paced growth city, irrespective of the current economical situation, and that helps you a lot when you're a kid, especially when you realize when you're with your parents, and if for example, if someone loses their job, you have to leave the country straight away. So you see people always working, because that's the only way you sustain, and it gives you a very high importance on what is family, and that's a very good foundations to motivate you to start a company or to work by yourself as you grow bigger, because you want to get as much assets as possible to live a good quality life to start with. And that's a very high overview of what my upbringing in Dubai was as a kid.
How was your upbringing in Dubai different to other locals because of your Indian heritage? I assume your parents brought you up on Indian traditions, values.
Yes. I mean, I didn't feel much difference. We just had friends. For example, I think I had a bit of Indian heritage, but also sort of Western heritage because I was introduced to tennis. I still love, I loved aviation as a hobby when I was a kid. We'd go to Indian traditions like Diwali and so forth, but it felt I would say it was a normal childhood. I didn't feel any different compared to what a local felt. there's nothing new or.
Sure. I mean, like from your perspective, for sure, that was the normal. But I'm just wondering, like, are there any particular ways of being an Indian that, for context, for example, a fun fact from Poland.
Yeah.
In Poland, due to the impact of Catholicism, we have Names Day. Okay. So we celebrate. Everyone who's baptized has to have a name after a saint. Obviously, there's plenty of saints apparently, and those saints have their days, right?
Yeah.
So not only do you have a birthday every year, but you also have a Names Day, which is like I like to consider it like halfway from birthday to, you know what I mean?
I mean, we have something similar like a star birthday or something. I mean, we have so many traditions, but to be fair, my mother is not going to be happy with me thinking I've forgotten half of them. She's going to kill me if she sees this, but that's the case. I mean, of course, we have all the traditions. The funny part in Dubai is like in Europe, when you have Christmas, you're always with the family. In Dubai, it's when you're with your friends. So it's a complete opposite.
Oh wow! Okay.
Because it's not many people.
It's not your I mean, it's not.
It's not the religion we follow, but for us, it's when it's Christmas or New Year, it's like okay, are we going to have a family gathering with every family we know across the country, or is it going to be something of just meeting friends during New Year? So it's a very different feel to what it is in Europe.
Yeah, I see.
So that's
New Year's for my background is much more party-like.
Yes.
Than Christmas. Christmas is family mostly, but my friends in Warsaw who would meet up after the party with family, they would still meet up. I was just never there, but
exactly. So but Dubai is surprisingly westernized in many regards, as you think. You still have your classic US traffic, in the evening. You have almost all the outlets you see in American media. So most people who grew up in Dubai kind of have a mix of their home country plus the Western outlook.
Of course.
I mean, that's why people call us like coconuts, what is it? Like it's brown on the outside, white on the inside.
Okay.
So even if we go back to India, we're still foreigners. If we're still in Dubai, we're foreigners. If we're in UK, we're foreigners. So we are foreigners everywhere.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm pretty sure we touched on that as well. Like where do you feel at home?
It's a tough question for me. Wherever I can buy a house, so not decided yet. Wherever I feel I can own my property, I can to an extent have an influence in what the design is of, and I feel like there's I would say there's a stable economy. There's more value in hard assets than fiat currency. To put it that way. That's what I would call home, and strong families around you. So because of my situation, we don't find I couldn't say India or Dubai as a home because I've lived there for a finite period of time.
And how is it with your are you an only child?
No, I have a sibling, a little brother.
So, have you lived? Because I learned before that many Asian countries, which I think is really wonderful, and if anything, I wish to bring it back. They live multi-generationally, right? So in the same house and under the same roof, there is the grandma, the parents, the kids, and maybe the kids' kids. Yeah. How was that for you?
So we were born in a nuclear family because my parents moved in Dubai, but when my parents lived, they lived in a joint family, at least on my father's side. So you had, I believe, if I'm quoting this right, you had my grandparents, my great-grandparents in the house, you had my father's brothers, relatives, and my grandfather and my grandmother, for example, would be the main breadwinners, and they look after this whole family. But the thing is that funny enough, as the families as they earn more money, they just become more nuclear. Which is so I grew up in a very nuclear setting. I'd see my grandparents 2 months in a year, but I wouldn't. So we have never. It would be interesting to see what it would be like to live in a joint family system, but something that I've only seen that when I've gone back to India, when I lived for maybe 2 months with my grandparents. So nothing.
That's really interesting. You said that the more wealth there became,
at least with what we think.
I mean it kind of makes sense though, right? Like the marginal utility of another member living under the roof goes down if you can provide for yourself.
Exactly. So then more split people are, and that means you're less connected than what you were before. Yeah, for sure. So but it was still I would say I really love Dubai as a city. I would, if things get better, I would definitely be looking forward to move back.
What do you mean if things get better?
So right now, like with the war, right? Things are slowed down. It's not. I don't think things are bad. It's just that, for example, if you're looking for employment, it's not going to be the best country to go for.
I see.
People are going to move out. There's still chaos in the market. There's no stability. But for example, if you're starting a company, I still think it's a gold mine because you don't pay much taxes. I mean, there's 5%, which is stupid, but you still, at least it's better than whatever you
45%.
45%. So I think if you know what you want to work on, and you have customers outside, Dubai is still the perfect place to be in. But if you want to look for employment, or you're looking for something where you don't want to run a company, I don't think it's still, for maybe the next 4 or 5 months, wouldn't be recommended to go back. At least I think I might be wrong.
No, of course. I mean, we're just speculating here.
Yeah.
By the time this episode airs, it might be all cleared up as well.
Yeah.
No, for sure. I wonder. It's interesting. I visited Dubai for 3 days as part of my renewing the visa for Kuwait.
Right.
And I thoroughly enjoyed the cleanliness.
Yes.
I think that's what we're missing here a lot. I did not enjoy the fact that I like to walk around.
Yes.
And I looked on the map, that the beach is literally from my hotel 2 kilometers or whatever, or even less.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, of course I can walk there.
Yeah.
And there is no way to walk there. There is a 7 cars or even more lanes highway. And I had to go all around 1 kilometer that way to get to the station to be able to go to the other side.
Crossing those roads are painful. You have to wait for 5 minutes.
Because it's not made for walking, right?
It's not.
It's just cars.
I mean, there's a very interesting way to look at this. So Dubai is a straight line of a city, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it's built. Now, I did say Dubai has no taxes, but it doesn't mean if you live in Dubai, you still pay tax in some hidden form. From my understanding, it's an incentive of the government for people to have more cars because petrol is owned centrally by the government, right? So, in that extent, I mean, if they need people to drive more cars to keep the country running, so it's by design. Because if you think of the UAE, they're very efficient. If they wanted to build a train line to reduce congestion, they can do it in a snap. But it's not how the economy runs, right? They need a car-fueled economy to keep them running. Good thing or a bad thing. It's just how they run.
That's really interesting. The one thing that in the Middle East was very new to me, and I shared it with my audience at some point as well, is it was really interesting for me that because the way we understand drive-through in Europe is taken to its extreme in the Middle East. Yes. Mostly due to the weather, but also, as you said, the conditions, for example, that the road is more comfortable than the walk or whatever.
Exactly.
All of the restaurants, all of the takeaways on my street were drive-through or drive up.
Yes.
And I was the only one ordering by just walking in.
Oh, yeah.
Ordering. It's just so funny. Yeah, it's so different. And in the night especially, you just have loads cars literally waiting. One after another waiting.
Okay, but that depends. That's two parts of Dubai. There's this very trafficy part that's central Dubai, which is straight line, but there's also the cultural part, which is Dera, Kisses, which is more outside, which is more like you would see in Europe, more there's so many small coffee shops. You'd see people at night just going and having a nice coffee, and people walk normally. You don't drive, but they're kind of congested areas, but they have their own charm. You can see sometimes 7 supermarkets next to you and you wonder what the hell, and they're selling different, from different places. So different country supermarkets in walkable distance, which is something I assume you see a lot in Europe as well. So you can choose which part of the country you want to be in, and that's one nice thing. If without paying taxes, you're not paying for the others choosing to drive a car. You're paying a toll. They pay a toll if they use the toll gate. You don't pay for it.
That's a very good point. Where in Dubai did you live?
I live in Kisses, so it's just parallel to the airport.
Okay.
So, but it's very much it's a mix of a driving community / food places around you. So if I wanted to, we had 2 McDonald's next to my house, just to give context. And each one had a drive-through and one didn't have a drive-through.
One had a walk-through.
Yeah, one had a walk-through, and it was crazy to have that. And we had KFC, we had a lot of Indian restaurants. We had 4 or 5 supermarkets spawning, and you can call it's not that densely populated because there was enough sand to play football in, for example. We were 100 meters away from a metro station, so I could drive or take the metro. So it was a pretty nice area to live in. It was a nice 2-bedroom house. We lived the 4 of us, but we enjoyed it, you know.
Yeah, and how was school?
I hated school.
Okay, no, but like, did you go to like, I assume an international school?
No,
there?
I went to an Indian school because you can choose. In Dubai, you can choose, right, which schooling system. I mean, there's no international per se. You have the British curriculum.
I see.
Yeah, you just choose, and my parents just put the Indian curriculum because they're more.
Why did you hate school?
Everybody. I mean, I hated my teachers mostly in high school. I was not the best student in high school per se. I mean, I was very good at almost failing a subject.
Yeah, geniuses are usually not.
I'm not saying I'm a genius. I'm very good at. I was just very good at passing in the borderline of an aspect, and I would sleep in the class, you know. And of course, my poor mother had to go through all the brunt of, you know, all my high school teachers.
Yeah.
My father was like, you know, please, you can take the blunt.
Oh, okay. So your father was more chill than your mom in that regard.
Well, you should ask her that question.
Fair enough.
If my parents listen to this podcast, it will be a very different.
Bless them. Thank you so much, guys, for listening. Cool. Yeah. So, how was the like? At which stage did you decide that you're gonna try and do an entrepreneurship venture? Was that a side effect of just living in a culture that encourages entrepreneurship?
So there's a very funny story of that as well. So I played flight simulators since I was 8 years old. I liked aircrafts because we live near an airport.
My father does that too as well, flight simulator stuff.
Oh yeah, it's a hobby. It's an addicting hobby. So you just want to. It's just like you're doing a bunch of procedures to land an aircraft, but it's so when you get hooked onto it. The problem is that my parents call them good parents. They would never buy me expensive machines to play the game. But to play a flight simulator, you need a beefy machine, as you might have seen if your father has a setup. You have like maybe 10 terabytes of storage. You're spending easy £10,000. There's no way they're going to buy an 11-year-old kid £10,000 worth of gaming machine. You'd be spoiled if they did. But as I kept playing and I kept learning the procedures, there was this idea. Do you know PlayStation Now was a thing where you can remotely render the game on a server. So you can just go to. It's like almost like. There's examples like you have a console in the hall, but you can just go in your bedroom and your mother is watching a TV show or something, and you can just play the video game on your phone or something at home. And that was like a very popular thing that came about. And for me, I thought, what if you could do the same thing for flight simulators, where you can have a server somewhere in the region, and you can just, you know, if you can't afford the computer, you pay a subscription fee of, let's say, €20 a month, and then you can just go log in, play, and then log out, and you just had a fun time either way. And flight simulators are interesting. They're not like shooting games where your frame rates, you have to be so accurate on the, like, you know, where the movement has to be almost like your latency has to be super low, because you care more about the procedure and enjoying the scenery. So it was one of the ideas I came up with. But imagine if you're 13 or 14, you don't know what computer science is. I didn't know how to program. I didn't know how to do this. I just wanted it. So then you say, okay, you just said, okay, let me start learning programming for fun. And that's how I started my journey into programming, just because of this one idea. And I'm still working on the idea, still at 26, you know. So I did my first release at 23, so it was just a long time preference. You just say, you know, I'm going to have fun.
Sure.
Let me just enjoy the process. And then it became my thing I wanted to work in, you know, like in the long term. And that's how it started.
And by now you're operational, right?
So we have open source versions of it. We have working products, but we haven't released it to market yet because I can explain why it's very difficult to do it correctly. It takes a long time. If you want to do this self-funded with your own money, it takes a lot of time, because
bootstrapping is an effort, right?
Because you need to learn the foundations of programming. You then need to build it, but then when you're building it, you need to plan in small iterations so that whatever small component you're making is profitable by itself. So that, you know, as you keep growing, these small parts come together into one big product. So if you ask an entrepreneur now, they'll say, I can do this in 1 year or 2 years, you know, I'll get VC money and I'll do blah, blah, blah. But the company will also die off as quickly as they started. But if you start slowly, because each component fails, you have to fix that and then move on. So even if it takes 10 years to be profitable, it will sustain in the long-term future. It will not die that easily, because each part is already profitable by itself. And that all those, let's say, 7 ideas combine into one big one. So it's like a set of atoms in its way, you know, like, And that's my way of starting a company, for example. Like, not borrowing any money, starting with putting my own money where it is, slowly releasing to the market. And lucky, this is how I even started my PhD. I worked on, for example, right now we're working on a project called P2PRC. It's basically for, if you're hosting a server.
Okay.
So this is a problem we face in the flight simulator. Let's say you want to render the game. Where will the server be?
Yeah.
Somewhere. And now when I'm a kid testing, I can't afford the Google Cloud builds to put a server in. So we bought an old machine, put it in my house, and I went outside. I said, let me find a way to host it from my house so that I can play it outside, and show my friends, oh, cool, look, you can play this from your computer outside, and it's like almost like doing such a thing. So then I had to build this network which allows people to host outside. So I learned the foundations of networking. How do you transmit a packet from your house to the outside world? And turns out that's a very difficult problem to solve. And you realize even in Bitcoin, they still have the same problem if you look right now. So if you are hosting a minor node, you need to have a public address. But what if you want to keep the node let's say you want to keep the node at home and not pay for a public IPv4 address? And that's something of a problem which they haven't fully solved yet. But there are certain domains which have solved it. And I read it and I put it into mine, released it. And when P2PRC is luckily profitable by itself because we fixed that one problem. Because now for companies, we can say, okay, why do you want to pay a cloud provider? Buy your own hardware, you control it, and you can host it from home, and you just had to pay me a small fee for setting it up for you. But it's open source either way, it's public, so if you want to hire someone else to do it. But because it's free market, I will definitely be cheaper than the other person to do such a thing. And you can see how this comes into play. You're building up.
How did it, you said that you've even structured your PhD on that.
Yes.
What do you mean?
So this is like the first part. The second part is the second goal is I wanted to learn how computers work from the first principles, from a gate level to the software. How do things run? Mm-hmm. So I chose to do a PhD in software/hardware development, like designing CPU components, just to see, because it's something very interesting in flight simulators. They're very expensive to run on computers, very, very expensive. But if you look at the inner code and if you reverse engineer the binary, which is, you can question the legality of it, but normally it's okay to do it. You find out that there's so much of inefficient programs written that run on particular hardware, and you can modify that with your own patch. So while the game is running, you load in your own patch right there, and it runs 20% faster. So you can say you buy the game for £40, you can just clone our patch, put it there, and you run on a network, and it's going to run this much % faster. And we're transparent on how we managed to get this running. So to do this, sometimes you need to understand from first principles, what is a computer, how does it run? And you spend 4 years sometimes just trying to understand this. And nothing better than doing your own project in a PhD, and whether you're good or bad at it, you're focused on one problem for 4 years. That creates discipline,
Yeah.
You can't be distracted. If you're distracted, you're not going to finish. So it creates this discipline, and you even if it works or does not work, you're becoming a better person.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Wow, I mean, my mind's blown. I'm trying to understand all the things that you're saying. How is it going with your team then? Because I assume you're not doing it unless you don't want to talk about it.
I can talk about it. So I have a very interesting way of working. So you can think of open source projects as a barter system. So
okay.
Sometimes I would explicitly pay someone to do a task.
Mm-hmm.
So the team is like, sometimes I have friends come over, sometimes I work by myself. It's not fully a company yet, because until every component is profitable, like for example, I'll be a contractor for 5 companies in the UK in an employment contract, because when you're in a PhD visa here, you cannot start a company legally. They will arrest you and put you in jail for that. So,
of course.
So what you have to do is you have to be an employee in 5 companies. For example, if you want to sustain, you tell 5 companies, I'm working 20 hours a week. So the government will think you're working 20 hours in total, which is the case. But this is how you can indirectly start a company, because they will independently file your taxes for you.
Okay.
But they are technically customers more than anything else.
Okay.
When it comes to the team itself, for example, I'll have a friend who'll do some few pull requests over the weekend. And he normally what happens in most cases is that he's working on a project by himself, and he needs something which I've already done in my project. And because it's open source, we can just share it with each other without even using money as a tool, but just me saying you can just use my source code, there's no, because it's, there's a concept of copy left. You can use my source code for free. In effect, the only rule is that when you distribute it, you also have to keep it free. So it's just a recursive effect we have. So when they contribute, so the thing is they will use our source code, but what happens is, even if they're selfish, they would want to contribute back because they know if they contribute more, the quality of the source code improves.
Sure.
Right, in general. And so this way, for example, I have only one person right now potentially working on the project, but it will sometimes there are 4, sometimes there are 1, depending on the scenario. But of course, when we establish a company, we'll have maybe 1 or 2 good employees. But the aim is to keep the team extremely lean.
Yeah.
Very lean. No, not more than 5 people.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So I think you're a perfect person to make a point, because you just made it earlier about like keeping the prices low and stuff.
Yep.
Why do you think it would be beneficial to have a truly free market economy?
The price will be low, but also can I give a comparison against the UK and Dubai?
Sure.
So when I was a kid, we went to play in a tennis club, which was it's a capitalistic system. You pay money for the club. When you have a free market, there's more competition. So you need higher. So what happens is businesses by default, by no choice, will have to increase their quality of service to do better. And people think there's no leeway for efficiency, but if you have competition, you will find ways to cut your costs. And if it's too competitive, you'll find more opportunities. So people will move, and it creates this balance between if it's over competitive or not competitive. And free market is the best way to have a balanced society. So that's why I think it's very important to have a free market.
Okay, so so compare you said in Dubai you have
you have the tennis court, right? So we were in an aviation club, which was it was owned by now Jumeirah Creekside Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the cost of the club were, it was something around, per year we were spending maybe, let's say let's put a cost ballpark around £7,000 or £6,000 a year for 4 people. Might look like a lot, but if you want to get the same quality in Edinburgh, you'll pay double. Easily.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Like, to give you context, in the club we had 4 tennis courts. You could meet tennis professionals every year. You had a jacuzzi, a sauna, you had a plunge pool, you had a gym, you had 4 squash courts, you got discounts in water parks every year. Good luck finding a place in Edinburgh that provides you all of this. Only a free market, if you're capitalistic in nature, you can do this to get customers in. And they also had like trade deals with, like, if you're a pilot, for example, you get free membership in the club and so forth. So I think for me, from seeing the quality of difference of playing there against the same price I pay for here, it's a huge difference. Like, it's substantially higher, because here everything is a charity, right? In the UK. To me, that's a joke. Just call it a company. If you're profitable, you are a company, not a charity. So it's crazy for me seeing charity entities acting as a company. To me, that's very strange.
That's interesting. You said about the flight simulator and stuff, and I just wonder, wouldn't you want to be a pilot? I
did want to be a pilot at some point, but my high school did not. So they didn't let me study a science course when I was in my 10th grade.
Okay.
They said, math grades aren't good enough. You only got 70%. So they said, you cannot do a science grade, hence, and if you're going to be a pilot, you need a physics course, at least in Dubai, was one of the criteria. So they said, you cannot become a pilot. They just, full stop.
Can you not go through some sort of
now I can. Now I realize
course.
Now I can. But the only way for me to become a pilot is so my mindset is I just want to be a hobby pilot, like learn to fly a Cessna or do it for fun, more than a commercial pilot. So the way I would do it is I would earn my own money, run a successful company.
Sure.
Then portion, if you have enough money, portion it out for getting a flying license, and then you can do it on the side. So that makes you capitalistic by nature. When someone says you can't do something, capitalism is always in your way to save you,
Yeah. I was gonna, like, as I was asking that question, I did think that you would probably be wasting your potential just flying a fucking plane.
Yes.
It's fun. It's fun to do it for fun.
Yeah.
But if you were to be on a salary job, 9 to 5 flying, it's probably a bit of a waste. Okay, so how do you find? Because how long have you been here? 2 years?
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah.
How do you find the UK as a place to live? Maybe, how's the vibe here for you?
So I would say Edinburgh is a very social country. That you can see.
Edinburgh, you mean Edinburgh City.
Edinburgh City.
And then, have you been in England before?
Not much. I've only been as a
Scotland.
Just I would only my viewpoint in UK is mostly primarily Scotland. I've been to England, but if you're there for like 1 or 2 days, it doesn't tell you anything about the part. Edinburgh's a very social city. It's a walkable city for sure, but I definitely do see such a striking contrast between, like, for example, Seattle and the city centre. Between people live, you can see a difference between benefits against people who are self-sufficient and who work and who put a lot of effort into work. And I feel like but my viewpoint is it feels like UK is transitioning from capitalism to communism.
Oh, I think we're already there. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can feel the transition. You know, you can see a historic relic on what it was, and it's a shame that because UK, especially like in my domain of work, the UK has so much of potential. For example, they started ARM, but they just sold it off to another country basically, which is crazy. It's your biggest asset in your country.
What did they do? Sorry.
ARM. They sold off to China. Do you know ARM, the manufacturer, the chip manufacturing for the iPhone?
Oh no, I didn't know.
They sold it off, right? Because for better valuations. And it's crazy in the UK. You see companies when they grow to a certain scale, they leave the country, right? So
they go to Dubai.
Dubai, where
Cyprus, whatever. Yeah.
Cyprus, Poland, whichever country, any country that's relaxed on taxes, and that's a shame. You know, why do you want to lose your rich people? They're the ones who run. They're the ones who are gonna, pay for fancy stuff and run the economy.
Yeah. And how are you finding people here? Have you found your tribe?
I have my tribe. We are crazy people.
The tennis people?
No. I have my own tribe of some of them are like some of them are hardcore Bitcoin people. Some of them are, but everyone hates fiat. That's my tribe of people. And it's like we go on hikes and we talk about things you cannot tell publicly. That's why we isolate ourselves. That's our tribe. I have tennis friends, but those are where I'm filtered. I behave myself. I don't tell people what I'm actually thinking of, because I feel like in UK, if you tell anything, like if I speak freely here, I'd be in prison the next day. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Just tell people you don't have kids.
Yeah, this is really like it's troubling for me as well, and even just considering that as part of a recording is that's absurd. All right. Let's switch it around. Yeah. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah.
To mix it up.
So how's the podcast going so far?
So far so good. It's as you mentioned about your flying.
Yeah.
This is my flying
podcast.
I'm enjoying it, man. The thing that I enjoy the most is having conversations with people. Like, of course, I record episodes on my own as well.
Yeah.
But I learned so much, like some random things as well, from you, from everyone else.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm enjoying it, and I'm glad that you came around.
Of course.
My friend, actually, a cybersecurity guy, who was here literally today recording the show. He helped me create a website for the podcast, so nice. I'm gonna populate it, and then it's there, so that's an update as well. But yeah, in terms of what you said about Poland as well, companies moving to Poland and stuff, I just wanted to continue with that. It's interesting, but like as we were talking at Lucia's, there is a push, let's say, a trend of people going to Poland. And I've recently learned that if you live abroad, because for context, 40 million Polish people live in Poland, roughly. 20 million more live abroad.
Oh yeah.
That's loads,
That's
right?
half the population. You said 40 million live in Poland and 20 million live abroad.
20 million more live abroad.
Okay, right.
That's a third of the population living abroad.
It's a brain drain right there.
And exactly, and that's the side effect of all the post-communism and everything. I'm probably an example of that, really. They introduced recently, literally like a few months ago, I think it's called the Polish Deal, which basically, if you go back as a person who lived and worked abroad, and you can prove that you lived and worked and paid taxes abroad, for 4 years you're tax-free from your income tax.
Yeah.
That's a huge incentive, man. You know, like
so. The hope is that they don't tax anybody. No, I think the hope is that this 4 years becomes to everyone, there should be no tax.
Oh yeah, there should be no tax, but good luck trying to push that through. Make a case for me that there should be no tax.
Make a case.
Yeah.
I can give an example. Taxation is by the central government. If you don't have a central money printing machine, you will not have taxes. You'll pay for services independently for what it is. The thing is, if you look at political systems, they're useless. Like voting makes no sense. It doesn't matter if you vote right or left. They're the same outcome.
They just print more money anyway.
They just print more money anyway. You have more wars, and they keep running because you can keep the printing machine running.
Yeah.
But if you had gold or silver or something of a hard standard, your wars will not sustain long. You will not have enough resources. This by itself will, and I mean the reason, the tax, majority of the taxes have gone to paying bonds. It doesn't go to even building infrastructure in the city. That's what a government states. So there's no reason to pay taxes I think that's why anarchy will prevail at some point, because people are going to get sick of it and they will go against their little central government. If you see in that sense.
Yeah. But anarchy, I think it's important for us to know that anarchy, I assume, you don't mean just a state of chaos, rather no oversight of a central entity, but people, trading and free, much more privatized services and stuff.
Exactly. So I like the way my friend puts it. He says an anarchy is just where you have basic property rights and maybe a defense for your thing, and that's all the government should do. Nothing more, nothing less. People can figure out the rest, and I like to use that as a true definition of anarchy.
And when did you learn about Bitcoin?
As a computer scientist, you read the white paper at some point. I think I read about it when I was 18 or 19. Okay. I never took it seriously. I just read the white paper. I'm like, cool, it's a cryptocurrency. Maybe recently my friend of mine, he pushes me to read the white paper. If I'm reading about Bitcoin, it's because of him. He sent me, what's the guy who gives a talk about Bitcoin? I keep forgetting his name. The one from Jordan. The one who wrote the Bitcoin Standard.
Oh, Saifed Anamus.
Yes, I got tuned in because of a ton of his episodes on Bitcoin. But I do like the concept of cryptocurrency as a way to trade. But I still like my gold, I still think
you have a huge tradition of gold in Indian culture, right?
I mean, like I told you cannot count how much gold is in India because everyone's wearing chains. So it's not countable. That's culture, where...
Are you wearing a chain now?
No.
Okay.
I will get mugged here.
Not in Edinburgh.
Well, hopefully not.
No, I have no doubt. It's interesting. So when did you grok it?
What do you mean?
When did you...
Switch?
Yeah, when did you realize about Bitcoin? Actually understand it?
I would say just 2 years back or a year back. Not that long ago. I knew what it did. When you look at it from a computer science standpoint, you don't think of the effects of what Bitcoin is. Or you see in Bitcoin, you talk about scarcity and how you preserve it. But in a computer science, you're like, it's just a ledger of entries. Okay, there's these many. If more people... You don't see it from an economical perspective at all until you read it, and then... I mean, it's funny because it is going up in value, irrespective of what people are saying. Whether I like it or hate it, it's climbing in value.
Or it's just showing that the value that it's measured in is going down, right?
Yes. Because there's also fantastic cryptocurrency like Monero, which are also pegging well against Bitcoin from what I see.
Well, tell me more about Monero. I have... So I'm fully Bitcoin maxi, so to be honest, I just don't really follow it.
It's in the same space as Bitcoin, but Monero is... to give a high level overview, Bitcoin, the problem in Bitcoin is that the government can audit everything you do. It's public ledger. If you put fiat currency in Bitcoin, they know exactly where it's going, and that's a huge problem. In Monero, to an extent, you can hide it, but still get the same guarantees as Bitcoin. So at least you can... Because one benefit of gold is that I can buy a gold coin from a shop. No one can and I can convert it to silver. I can go across the world by converting it to a chain, and no one can trace where it is, what I'm doing with it. And that's one very important principle of money, right? No one should know how much you're worth. That you need that sort of privacy. Monero, to an extent, can guarantee that, but Bitcoin, everybody will know what you're worth, even if you did. But when I used to work with a company called PeerNet as an open source, we used to build a torrent-style downloading network.
Okay.
They had so the founder of the company had another company called Intelligence X. It's based in Prague, Czechia. They used to do Bitcoin auditing as a job. So governments would pay them money to, and because they used to crawl the internet, they could give you an audit report on how much Bitcoin a person has, which wallet they transmit it to. So you don't really have anonymity from the feds, for example.
Yeah, I see. Well, there are ways. I guess the coin joins and just never using the same wallet. I've heard as a like address. But yeah, no, I get.
But once it's public, it's public. You know. The question is whether you're.
I'm open to learn about Monero though. I'll check it out after the. After the show.
Like I said, you know, I'm not even that highly invested in Bitcoin as you think I am, because I'm more focused on my own company right now.
Oh man, I have no Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And I don't think you have any either. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with Monero, with Monero, what's have you gotten any?
No. Well, when I have enough assets in the company, I'll think about investing later on. But my priority right now is to. Not profitable as in making more fiat currency, profitable as in there's value in the company. People are using it more.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. When there's true value, then I have enough assets where I don't have to reinvest it back in the company. And everything is, you know, prioritized for the family when you grow older. Then that reserves can go straight into Bitcoin or Monero or any hard asset in general.
And are you moving back to Dubai after your PhD?
That decision I will take in 2 years' time. So,
okay. Have you thought where you'd like to live?
For me, it's my main goal is to figure out how the company does right now.
Okay.
If it's going well and if it grows to a certain extent, then I would preferably move back to Dubai in that case because of tax reasons. But I face a rather interesting challenge. So when you have an Indian passport, you cannot travel around the world freely as you think you can, right? You have visa bureaucracy. So you can complain about it, or there's a solution. You focus on earning enough assets and you can buy visas across Europe to travel across Europe, where you can say, okay, you can get residency in Spain, residency back in Dubai. So you'd have 4 or 5 residencies, but you need to, your decision is finding on which country can give you the potential to build a capital where you can execute such a decision, where you can freely travel because you have the resources to buy yourself visas in different countries. So you don't care about swapping your passport, which I think that's like a trap most people face in the UK, is that they have to stay for 5-6 years to change their passport, and that's like slavery to me, because I have to pay taxes for 5-6 years even though I want to leave the country or come back. You're trapped. You can only leave the country for like 90 days a year or something like that, right? On a skilled worker visa. To me, that would not work if you want to start your own company. So it's the choice is which country makes it. Dubai, for example, gives you a great choice to have a Dubai residency visa still, right? For 10 years.
Oh yeah, okay.
So I've not lost it. I can still move back anytime I want to move back. But I can, for example, even start a company back in Dubai and move there for some time. But I need to make sure I have enough money, enough resources to afford a visa in the UK where I can come back and trade, because it's still the case that Europe still has very good customers to deal with. So that's a decision that will take 2 years to find out.
Sure. I mean, it makes sense. Have you read The Sovereign Individual?
No, not yet.
You should. I'll make sure to. I'll link it as well for people, because that's literally it's literally talking about what you said about the guys in 1997 predicted that the information age is gonna basically make nation states obsolete, and like the premise of the book is that more and more individual freedom will be gained through information and stuff like that.
And I like to believe trade is the most free form of. If you believe in no racism, you believe trade is the only way to stop racism, right? That's true form, because you don't care about how a person looks. You see whether they're delivering value to you or not.
Yeah, no,
so that's
for sure.
It's a much better society to have than claiming you are.
You know, it's the irony about racism is that those that pay the most attention to it are the most racist, That's true, yeah. Like, kids, when they play with other kids...
They don't even think about it.
They don't, it's just a play, right?
Yeah.
Only we were brought up in certain structural societies and stuff, and then you have all these people shouting about racism, essentially making it a thing, right? Yeah. Like what you voice. First there was a word. What you voice becomes real. Yeah. How is it? How was it for you in Dubai being Indian? Is that?
I felt no trouble at all. People say they did, but to be fair, I never felt like I was racially treated in any form. I just felt that maybe if someone had a better passport, they would have better opportunities.
Sure.
But that's fine, like then you say, okay, you work hard and you grow. But if you worked hard, you were definitely rewarded for that, like people respected you. So I never felt any form.
And you said that you've not been that great at school.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. I think school's
Most people are
quite
bad at school.
challenging, yeah. In terms of it's actually mind-numbing. But what is it? Your parents, or is it what made you? This is difficult to answer, I believe, but we don't know what exactly make us do anything. But what do you think made you into such a driven individual? And you emphasized in this talk so far at least 5 times the hard work, hard effort.
Yeah, that's what drives society, right? Everybody should. You feel happier the more harder you work, right?
But did you just come up with that idea, or did you?
No, you see that through family. My grandparents didn't have it easy, right? My grandfather, my mother's side, worked in a furnace, and then had to study on the side. Then he became a chemical engineer, and then he got to travel around the world, but from nothing, from a village. And when you're around with such people, especially your elders, you learn a lot when you just walk with them. And it's something I took for granted, but now I realize is very important, is when I just had a morning walk with him and he'd tell me his life story. And in different forms every day, and he'd point out, they always teach you a lesson, but it's very entrepreneurial. For example, the one thing he told me is it's important to learn how to build your own house. For him, he said, if you have to build, it's because he designed his own houses. He was the architect. He was a chemical engineer, but to him a real skill set was learning how to design the house, ask friends for feedback, and then build it yourself. And he'd go and see the site whenever it's necessary. It was not just it was cheaper, but you take pride in building your own property because it's somewhere you're going to live. You look at every detail and integrate details. And this is more important than having a uni degree. This is a real skill set. And I kind of agree with him that everybody should know to an extent,
It's like, building a house, that's probably a bit of a stretch for most people, but in general, learning these practical tools, right? Or like how to fix something around your house, how to garden, how to cook, obviously, like that's a minimum. How does finance work? How money works? I think this is one of the biggest atrocities in terms of the educational gaps.
Yeah, but can I tell you why this is a very important foundation to have? Like, let's say, because you might say it's good to learn like the basic stuff, but think of it like we're living in the UK. We live in a rented house. I call a plumber. The job is sloppy. If I build my own house, I am the plumber. I know what's happening. I can choose a contractor. I can choose the cheapest one.
And I know whether or not it was done correctly
or not. And I can transfer it to my family. There's inheritance. So I have a motivation to keep it going longer. I'm more satisfied as period progresses with the house because the property value will also normally go up if you do a good job maintaining the house. You feel like you have more control in your life, and you feel satisfied as an individual when you're living in that sort of environment than living in a place where everything is provided for you, but in a sloppy way, but you complain still.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do because the legal law will say you can't do this, you can't do that. That's bullshit. It's your house. It should be your choice.
Yeah. I see. You've inspired me. I don't know if I'll exactly design the whole house, although I'd like to.
You can just start with like a small wood cabin, for example.
I'll start small. Yeah, for sure. But no, for sure there is something as well, like a copy paste house in the suburbs.
Yeah.
Is not going to have the same feel to it as a house that, even with the help of an expert, but you've stood over the blueprint, designed to your needs, and for sure. Yeah,
it might take 10 years, but that's time preference. That's the most important life lesson you learn from old people, is that you have to think in the long term. You don't think 2 years down the line, you think 10 years. And you get so good at executing that, when you plan 10 years, every small step is happening on time. And it's a muscle in your brain you're training, and you learn that's how you become a strong individual. You can persevere a lot more. So I think it's a trait that, like with prominent social media, that's cheap dopamine.
Oh yeah.
So people forget this skill set, so this is something I learned a lot from my grandparents, and that, that helps you when you're building a lot of things.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful, that's beautiful. the interesting thing that I've observed when people do buy, when people do end up buying flats that are already ready, is because you've paid for that already cookie cutter ready flat, then you have to add all the effort in breaking some walls, changing whatever you want. And I assume there is still, because of the expense and stuff, it is still potentially cheaper than building everything from scratch yourself. But if you're still gonna have to, make compromises and compromise some parts and change them, why wouldn't you choose from the get-go, right? Why wouldn't you employ someone to do it from the beginning?
But it depends on how long you're looking at it for. Like when I build a house, like for example, if I wanted to build one, I look at it for transferring it for like 4 or 5 generations down the line. And I want the blueprint documented to the spec, and I would teach it like a trait, like a skill to my kids, and I expect them to teach it to their last. So it will be an old house, but it's run by one family. You can see in the UK, if you have these houses which are run by a single family, how well maintained they are and the standard it is. The problem in Edinburgh is that many houses were owned by families, but they've been sold off because people don't have kids. Yeah. And that's the biggest atrocity you can do. And these problems you're talking about, buying an existing house, is because there's no other, they're not transferred to the family. I think it's a disappointment to society when you don't do that.
Well, but yet again, kids are time preference, right? Like if you don't have kids, then you have no additional time preference lowering device in a sense. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I'd also love to build a house.
I mean, you just have to save resources, right? And you can buy land in a cheaper part of the country and do it. There's nothing stop. Sure. Especially you're from Poland. There's a lot of space available.
How's that with if you're happy to talk about it? How's your family?
Are they perfectly okay?
No. I mean, like, how is it your search for your own family?
So my goal is after the PhD, I will spend more time. So the wise wisdom I've heard is that till you're 25, focus on yourself. Okay. More. So I've never dated anyone till I was like 25. I've always focused on build, because for me the most important thing when finding a partner is giving her a good financial. You have to be in a good financial position. So for me, the way I look at it is that she can choose to work if she doesn't want to work. Both choices are okay. I see. But you need to be the breadwinner, where you say you can do what you want to do, but no matter what, there's still this financial barrier. And being a man, that's a very important trait to have, is to give this guarantee, and it's not easy to build that. And I have a huge preference that I prefer to have that guarantee while finding someone, so that when you're there with them, they definitely don't have to think about finance. They can think about, they can think about maybe thinking about having a family or being with friends more, and you make them feel more relaxed. And
sure. I do give them the option of that.
Yeah, and I think it's one thing that's important to do as men. Provide for the family.
That's really and you said you've dated already.
I've not dated anyone. I've been on dates per se.
Yeah. So I met, for example, an Indian guy from Kerala, I think, who in his cultural setting, whether or not a partner is suitable for you will depend on the caste, but also on the financial standing, and depending on his net worth, there is a certain net worth that the other side has to, pay in as part of the girl's.
You mean dowry?
Dowry.
Historically, how that used to be. That's how it used to be. Not anymore, I think. But what is more important is
I guess with some families it might stay, right? Because it's a tradition.
Mostly in the villages, not in the cities.
Yeah, maybe.
Now it's the opposite. You have to pay, from what I've heard from people. The men who are paying, to get the women. It's become more like more like Islam.
Oh, okay.
In its sense. But what's more important in our culture, for example, is the women's family is also from an equally good financial standing, not to your worth, but to your parents' net worth. Okay. So it's not necessarily that if you make a lot of money, sure, great. But what's more important is that your parents and her parents are of similar, similar background, similar net worth, so that if there's conflict, she can move out to her parents and they can defend her.
I see.
It gives a fairness on both sides, and people think this is a crazy thing to look at, but the reality is, it actually keeps you longer as a couple together, because both of you will behave. humans are not rational people. Sometimes you never know who's going to get greedy when. Like that's one thing you can't tell. But if you have strong financial backing on both sides, the families will make sure that you behave in a certain way, and that's an important way to look at life. That's how I see this.
How would you? So you said you've been on dates.
Well, barely.
How do you approach dating life? Do you use an app or do you just?
My friends were forcing me to use an app, so I tried it.
Okay.
Well, of course it didn't work out because people get scared when like, oh, do you want to have kids? I say yes, and they're like, their heart just goes beating right there.
It's probably not the best thing to say over an app on the first time you're messaging someone.
I've never been on a date with someone, and you're like, oh, you have to behave, and then you realize
you have to pretend.
You have to pretend, you know. And my friends would be like, Akilan, filter, hold it. So, no, I just, when I'm myself, probably it's just that I found out that many of them didn't want to have families, and you have silly conversations, and I just found that people, it was not serious enough to proceed forward. So it never went forward, and I said, you know what, I'm going to focus on my PhD more, finish it off. When you're in a good position, good people will come behind you either way.
Oh, for sure,
so
for sure.
Better to work on yourself than trying to convince someone to be with you.
Yeah. You attract attractive people by becoming an attractive person, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. I am wondering, like, what do you believe in terms of the, maybe your upbringing or not, your perspective? I literally had a discussion today with my friend Aaron about like what is God or whatever, what is this space we're in? Are we living in a simulation? Are we living in a...
Okay, what is my religious belief?
For example, I call it spirituality because I don't follow a religion, but it can be religious.
I have a take on this. So we're Hindus my family's a Hindus by descent, right? But the way I see it is like, I see my grandfather as a god, for example.
Okay.
I see my because they're people who provided for me the resources, they've looked after us, they're good wishers, I trust them with whole heart and faith. So I would see my grandparents, my parents, the people who have brought us up as a generation, as a god, I would listen to, not blindly listen, but to a good extent, follow their advice. Now, who they believed in, I don't know, but I trust the abstraction, I trust that if I'm existing today, it's because of a lot of effort from from the past generations.
Okay.
To make sure, because as a human, we've been through wars and crazy things. If we're alive today, it's because of our ancestors.
Yeah.
And we have to take pride of that. It's nothing. So I see them as a god. That's my spiritual belief. And I don't like to think of simulation or anything. I just like to enjoy the moment. Not to think too much about it.
Okay. And do you think there is reincarnation? Have you thought about it?
I haven't thought about it. I just believe that if you're a good person, you're gonna have good kids, and they're gonna be happy, and your parents are gonna be happy when they pass away. They're gonna see their grandkids, and they're gonna be happy that the family's continuing, irrespective of what happens to them. At least when they die, they have a smile. That's what I believe more in.
I see.
I don't know about it. I don't think about it. So.
Okay, cool. No, it's just not of interest to you. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair enough. It's curious. I quite like the idea that maybe God is a big word for it, but certainly we're standing on the shoulders of giants, right? That's what you meant by the family sort of. Okay. What else would you like? Maybe your turn. A question.
Okay, I can ask you a question. So tell me about your farm. What do you?
Farm.
You said you're getting a farm, right?
No.
Or you're inheriting a land.
No. Yeah. I'd like. Well, I would. Yeah. I would like to. Yes. I see what you mean. So this is not my farm, and I'm not sure how much of leeway I'm gonna have in accommodating it, but it's basically at my father's-in-law land where we might be living for some time with Julia.
Yeah.
I'd like to do like a polyfunnel, I think they call them.
Okay.
And like grow veggies and stuff in it. But that's just another of fun things to learn. I've discovered that I love taking care of plants, and gardening is quite an adventure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I I have an interesting question, maybe on the crypto side.
Sure.
So, what do you see yourself doing financially? Do you see yourself having diversity of assets, or do you see yourself?
Yeah, I mean, so as we've discussed, right? I believe that really assets is the way forward in terms of storing your value over time, your energy to be expended, and I've had before index funds and like I even dabbled in some trading stocks and stuff. By now I'm fully black-pilled on that. I think all of it is completely bullshit and I mean it's better than putting money under the mattress, but if that's your threshold of better, then so be it. I think once you start realizing that the fiat systems problems, you turn into a bit of a maxi in terms of like gold, silver, Bitcoin, I don't know, real estate obviously, but real estate, that's a weird, it's a lie, right? Like it's not that your house which you're spilling your drinks on and punching the wall. I literally threw a pair of scissors today I was just like twisting it and there is a hole in the door, and it shouldn't go up in value. What happens is that which we measure it with is going down in value.
Exactly.
Right? So from that standpoint, I'm definitely right now at the stage that plan for the best, prepare for the worst, and I think maybe God willing 2-3 years down the road get that built of our own house.
Nice.
Maybe a little stable for the horse.
It's good to look forward to.
Yeah, it's the things, right? Like you're building for yourself for the future. Yeah.
I assume you're against GDP for sure, right?
I mean, GDP is yet another scam, right? Like especially based on the Keynesian economics. It's that's actually interesting that you mentioned it. A gentleman who reached out to me, Paul, with whom I recorded an episode before. I'm actually gonna write it down to Chris as well. Episode. He bases the whole of his book's Capital Offense premise on explaining how the economy works. And also mentioning that GDP, how it's measured, it's like the CPI, how they choose what to measure, right?
Exactly.
Like, isn't interesting that the prices of houses are not included in the CPI? Maybe for a good reason. And GDP, like the whole idea being that as long as there is spending, there is growth. It's complete craziness, right?
And you see right now governments are like, stop buying, like in India recently, they've been telling people to stop buying gold. The government.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. So the Modi government has been like, stop buying gold because, we I don't even know why they mentioned that, but it's crazy. Whenever you look at...
Because they want to buy it.
They want to buy it, or they think, it's because of the Iran war or for trading. I don't remember the reason, but I was laughing.
I mean, the reason is irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
Like and don't believe their words, to watch their actions, kind of watch the money flow. I mean, of course, a great indicator for me in terms of anyone out there who is paying attention to what's going on is if you see big players on the chessboard of the world doing something, it might be beneficial for you to do it too, right? And that's the premise about silver, gold, Bitcoin, all of that. If that's what they're doing while they're screaming, the experts are screaming that that's exactly what you should not do. Don't mind the experts. Focus on what they are actually doing, right?
Exactly.
I think you should. There is this idea from Tony Robbins that success leaves clues. And like if I see you succeeding in your business venture, I don't have to look for additional proof of that. I can ask you for advice in that sphere. And if I see you, talking big game, while I know that you're working as an employee and you've never had a business, which was really funny. I assume on your PhD you're a bit more like technical, so maybe guys teaching are also more technical. But for me, it was quite telling when during our economics class, a guy who was explaining to us how to, how economics works and investment and stuff. He said that he never had a job outside of academia.
Oh yeah, that's pretty. I mean, it's the same thing in computer science as well, right?
How do you know how the world works? Like you're teaching me how to run a business.
I mean, there's the thing like practical knowledge and theory. Anything with the fiat economy is all theorists. There's nothing real per se. They try to make it real.
Yeah.
That's basically their whole motive, right? It's what they think they want it to happen.
Yeah.
But I mean, the same in computer science as well. You see researchers, they're always fixed in their research world. It's really cool on paper, but they never have the execution model to make money out of it. And that takes a whole different set of experience. Even to do that, for example, it takes me 10 years to just, build something so simple. And this is the same problem in any subject, computer science.
Yeah, I've clashed with that as well. Had a real world experience. As my final project for uni, I did like international business as a master's, yet another degree, which is just a fun little degree for a big price. That's all. I enjoyed it, and my father is proud, so I'm happy. But it was just another pricey adventure. I did have a really cool supervisor who suggested that I do, or maybe whatever, a practical project. So instead of writing a full dissertation, which is just like research or whatever, or really boring stuff, they are running this project, which I even participated in like a promotion video for, where there is a pool of little startups or businesses trying to figure out their MVP or maybe minimum viable product, or maybe they are thinking about going to market and acting as a consultant. A pool of students were interviewed whether or not we're a good match, and then we were assigned different projects, and I was assigned this project which was basically 3 guys doing chemical engineering of sorts. I don't remember exactly how they phrased it, but they were working on stuff that allows for a transformation of plastic, for example, into a biodegradable thing, whatever. And they had a whole system, flow something system. And those are 3, really, really extremely skilled chemists guys. But they have no business acumen, and they're not they're doing all of their stuff from grants, research, and uni. And so I was supposed to help them figure out a way to market, right? The market research, and then provide them with some solutions and ways. And the cool incentive about the whole practical dissertation thing was that at the end of it, some people got an employment with those companies or teams because maybe I've proven to you that I'm worthy. Now pay me. And from the get-go, they were very helpful in terms of understanding the system, and they were very unhelpful in terms of doing any sort of ideas, right? Like market research options. Making the product a bit like this or a bit like that, or advertising it here, or being merged by a company, whatever. And in the end, we had to laugh with my supervisor that in the end, as part of my final presentation for them, I basically presented 3 versions. One being they make those changes that I've suggested and try to go to market. 2, they make some of the changes and enroll on another spin-off program, and 3, do nothing. And the thing is, when we were discussing about like the different opportunities and challenges and stuff, all they said was, but we want to keep our research job at the institute. And if that's the case, then there is no business. Like
Exactly.
if you're more interested in being the researcher at an institute, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, you can. So I have a kind of a story with this as well. There's a project called FFmpeg. So most,
No, go on.
So most streaming platforms like Netflix, the big ones, they use a video encoder. That's what's used to send. Like so if you have videos on the internet, that project is somewhat the reason for that. VLC, you must have heard of that, right? VLC Media Player. They're built based on that. When these guys wanted to finish uni, they wanted to go to market, right? They wanted to open source their work. The uni were the first ones to say, let's monetize it so we can take your money for you.
Mm-hmm.
The problem in research is that this is the same problem in unis. They're trained in a way where if they go to market, they're like, I'll be a researcher because I'm safe. The uni won't steal my money and I can still own it, but nothing happens. But the reality is because unis like to have ownership on what you do. This is the case. Even right now with my project, I open source everything. So because I say everybody owns it, so the uni cannot claim ownership on it. Simply for the reason I take a box saying, I don't want your legal protection, I want nothing from you. Let me. And the thing is, researchers have this mindset where they want to be in academia anyway. It's hard. I struggle talking to researchers who want to be entrepreneurial in nature. It's a different ball game to play altogether. You need experience. And that comes into saying that you need to work. Normally people who have worked in apprenticeships or worked in many jobs before they start the research will be good at doing this, but those who haven't, who have zero experience and just stayed in academia from 17 and never worked in a real job will be this. They want to play safe. They've never gone in the outside world to try and fail. So I think that's why uni is not the best place to have a startup.
Yeah, I see.
It's probably the time if they finish uni and they're outside uni, that's the time you should probably work with people like that because they'll risk a bit more because they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, or participate in some competitions to like spin off whatever and then get out.
But the thing is, you still need to have long-term preference when you're running a successful company. You need to plan 10 years down the line. You need to have a really good value of a strong principle in why you're starting the company and why what you're applying right now will get you there. In that case, I will hire a business person. I don't even have to go to a startup and find someone. I know exactly who I need. Like, this is the interesting problem. When you look at computer science jobs, you see everyone has a LinkedIn profile, which is a waste of time. I'm not on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But you just see people saying, I'm good at this and this and this, and it's all short-term projects. It's rare to see someone with a very long-term project because they don't have to be on LinkedIn if they are. They have contacts, connections, they know exactly who, and when they're hiring, for example, I know exactly who I want. I don't have to put a job post online. And if I message the person, I'm sure they'll join for the correct value. Because I've spoken to them for 4 months, for example, about this. And I've learned about what parameters do they need to work with us. And so I know what they'll agree with. And this is long-term time preference. And if something goes wrong, I take the effort to put in to it. So if you can be a consultant, but if the business owner does not have the motivation or the experience or the rigor, nothing's going to happen, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like the outcome of my project was effectively they did nothing.
Yes.
And like I enjoyed it, it was a real world experience as well of like, oh, so that's how consulting works. You do all that stuff and then they shout at you and you're done.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really does ring true to what you said, like the it's like a comfort zone, but I think not in a derogatory way because it's okay. Not everyone. I've heard something like just to finish the thought, not everyone should be entrepreneurs, right? Like that naturally.
Yeah.
I've heard that 5% of people are entrepreneurial in mindset.
But I think it's important that you should always put, at least till you're 30, I think you should be pushing yourself because you're building the foundations to having a family.
Yeah.
If you slack off now, you will take the brunt when you're 30. You'll complain about everything, but the reality is you haven't worked hard now. And it's better to be in a situation where you're forced to work hard so that, and also in your brain, your brain is still growing. So the more you push yourself intellectually, the more you're building neural connections. So though at some point it's going to drop down, but at least you'll be in a much more literate state when you try to learn more things. That's why culturally we have to work very hard till we're at least till our early 30s or more. And then you need to think in advance and say, let me partition my life because when I'm 30, I want to spend more time with the family. You can start counting how long your parents will live at a certain age, because if you live in a foreign country like me, at some point I need to think, okay, my parents are 30, 60, maybe they live till they're 80. If they're lucky, then I can count on my fingers how many times I'm going to see them.
Yeah.
So I need to start thinking now, what actions do I do now will give me more time to spend with my parents, with my family, if I want to have kids. And that's like a chess game. You need to plan very early, and you realize to do that you need to push hard right now. You need to be entrepreneurial right now, and everybody can be entrepreneurial. It's not that everybody should start a multi-million company. It's just you start a small idea that self-sustains your livelihood. And one analogy I like a lot is someone mentioned that who tells you should work 5 days a week? That's not even human nature. Sometimes it's just a company forcing you. Why don't you build yourself where you work twice a week? You get 4 or 5 days to do whatever you want to do, but you do it really well. And to build, and you will be a lot more satisfied in your life. Why do you have to work 5 days a week? You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's not that you take a vacation the other days. It's just that you get to, when you're working for yourself, it's not work anymore.
Yeah. And a big part of it as well is just, as you said, I guess, like, when you're young, you have a lot of time to pivot, to fix it, to get up,
yes,
to get better.
Yeah.
When you already have a wife, kids, a mortgage, whatever,
your parents are old.
Yeah, you're much more risk averse. You're much less likely to try that new idea,
exactly,
to do that thing that you always wanted to do.
Okay.
And postponing it for later effectively just renders it
obsolete.
Yeah. No, for sure.
So that's one way to look at it, to why you should push yourself. So you cannot slack. That's how I see it as. If I had kids, I would not allow them to slack in their 20s. They would have to try. Because for me, my parents are in good health right now. They're in a good financial position. This is the best time for me to risk.
Yeah.
When they grow older, I need to look after them. This is our culture, right? We look after the old elderly people. We don't abandon them like many people put in their old age home here. So when you have the responsibility, you have to work. So that's my viewpoint.
Yeah, I think that's also a really beautiful thing that, yet again, I think in the West we've sort of been kind of made to forget it or normalized the idea that you are on your own, and your family is just those other people. Leave them be.
It's just a central system growing and growing and growing. You can see in the UK, if you want to be a tennis coach, you need to have a certificate for that, right? You want to be a football coach, you need a certificate. Really, I was laughing when I heard about this. So you need certification to teach your kids how to play a sport. Are you kidding me? And this is just bureaucracy. Many people mention it's just bureaucrats coming in when you don't need it at all. You see in most countries when a business is succeeding, so back where I'm from in India, in the south of India, there was a time and place when you had anarchy, where you had a lot of small companies building textile and component parts for automotive industries, and they were doing perfectly fine. They were trading with each other like a bazaar, but the government steps in saying, we're going to help you, and I was like, well, we never asked for your help in the first place.
Yeah.
They always find a reason to step into places which are working. You always see this with governments.
Yeah, it's because they're just looking for more and more ways of siphoning the productive effort, right?
It's a mafia. Just call it, as it is.
Yeah. It's like the guy with the biggest stick on the playground.
Exactly.
He doesn't have to play.
Yeah.
He can just take it, and it's obviously voluntary.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to prison.
And the best way to fix this is ignore them. Ignore your politicians. Don't care about politics. Whatever, left, right, greens. Just carry on with your business.
Focus on your stuff.
You just have 5 good friends. You're happier because you just make sure they're doing all right. Forget charity. You'll always find some friend who needs your help. Help them instead of helping some person you don't even know about. That's my philosophy.
Through a system which will siphon 70% of what you've donated. Yeah, this is really interesting because this is also something that I guess mine and my wife's mentor said to me, because I was quite happy about the fact that I've been sending money to charity however much every month for years, and I wholeheartedly believe it to be a good thing to do. And then he said that I'm an idiot for doing that, because I started kind of discussing it with him and stuff, and he said he used to do that as well, but what's the point of sending a nameless check somewhere to an organization which will obviously be inefficient enough to waste some part of that resource, and most likely it's gonna go to the person that is most needy, but not necessarily the person who will benefit from it the most.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like throwing it in the gutter in comparison to throwing it at someone who, because of that, will have the change happen.
I mean, but you have to teach a person how to fish, not give them resources.
Yeah, exactly.
If you care about charity, go there and help teach them how to run a company, teach them how to live self-sustainably, and check on them, and make sure they're progressing as like a parent. And it's very difficult to do that. But you realize you don't even have to go that far. You have people around you who need that sort of help.
Yeah, for sure.
So fix your surroundings first before you want to give your money elsewhere. That's my philosophy in general.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's simply a little trap for. It's this. I don't remember the. What do I remember? I don't remember the name of the guy, but there is this sentence about our current world is like, we've taken what worked and changed it for what sounds good.
Yeah.
And all the signaling of caring for others, sustainable resources, and all that jazz, all of it sounds great. It sells, people buy into it, but it just doesn't work in the real world environment. Similar to what we discussed about the academics, right? Like, okay, you have a theory. Well, go out there and show me that theory is correct.
Yeah.
I've had a funky little experience at my uni about Bitcoin, funnily enough, because we were discussing the history of money or whatever, and this lady started explaining what money is and what are the different components of money and how it works, and then she made a full case on how Bitcoin isn't money. And myself and two other people in the class started to literally debate her, and at some point I realized, like, if anything, I'm gonna get myself in trouble for doing this, so I stopped. And then funnily enough, one of the assignments that we were given at year end was based on the whatever, like knowing the nature of money, whatever, argue whether Bitcoin is money. And I knew that it's gonna be her who's checking the thing.
Yeah.
So I literally, I was like, should I write what I really think and risk really low grade, or should I write what she wants to hear and get a better grade? It's like, is this really a space to discuss ideas?
One thing I realized, that uni is not a space of free speech.
Exactly.
It's not. There's only one side they want to hear. They claim they're open, but I've felt that it's never the case. Even with my colleagues or friends, only if I know the person well, I speak freely.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise,
it's like with the workplace, right? You just there is too much at stake for you to be sharing that with.
Because there's no free market. If you in a free market, like when I work with people, I don't even ask them what do you think about things. I would just say, work 2 hours a day if you can. If you can get it done, perfect. Do whatever you want. I paid you for it. Task done. Work on the next thing. If we're friends, we go in a bar and we talk about it. But you want to distinguish between both of them, and you don't have this. Like workplace now, it's like, family and blah blah blah. You're there to work, to make a company profitable. That's your only motive.
Yeah.
When you're there, you're not there to be inclusive and blah blah blah. So
I've heard this quote recently that loyalty to a company is a one-way relationship.
Yes.
Exactly. It's like you think you're like really really important until you're not.
Exactly.
It's So tell me, do you have any experience working for a company?
I have worked in 4 or 5 companies already.
What did you do?
I can tell you. So my first company, I worked in a company called PlanetScale. It was an internship in the US. We worked with databases, so how to scale with 4 or 5 databases.
Okay.
My second company, this is interesting. I got hired by, he's a very close friend of mine. His name's Abdullah. He's actually working on a Bitcoin project right now as well. Funnily enough, I did a talk on my personal project, and he hired me on the spot for the work I did.
Cool.
He's still a very close friend of mine. I worked with him, for example. It's very interesting stuff, like maybe figuring out if music is being copyrighted, for example, with some sort of watermarking on the music video itself.
Oh, okay.
So if someone uses it, you can read certain things. Then he recommended me to work in a healthcare company in Saudi Arabia. It grew to be seems to be successful as a company. We had like 2-3 engineers, but we were handling easily like 20,000, 30,000 users per second or something like that.
All of that was IT related?
So I've only worked in computer science companies.
Okay.
After that, I worked in a company called PeerNet, and it's interesting. I got hired by a guy his name is Peter Kleischner. He's a dropout of high school.
Oh.
And he actually started his own company since he's 13 or 14, and he's been selling. He makes a company, sells them for money, and then keeps making more companies and sells them again. And he's been very successful at this, rather, and he's well known in the OSINT space for the work he does. His company Intelligence X has clients with the FBI and the CIA for providing intelligence, so they're a big company. And actually, this company started because of the Capitol Hill riots with Trump. What happened is Twitter has this huge surveillance thing, where they took down videos and they crawled the whole Twitter, and they had all of that in their database, sort of thing. So now the governments can ask them for proof, if you want to persecute someone. So then they said, we want to put this on a decentralized network so that anybody can have access to this information. So I was hired as one of the people to help them build this platform for them, which was a very fun experience. And I did this all while doing the PhD, working with it on the side, which was fun. And so it was crazy when I did my PhD, because I started uni at 17. I did 4 years of undergrad, and I did my PhD just with 6 months gap. So I did all these companies while doing a PhD.
So PhD is after undergrad?
After undergrad. No, there's undergrad, masters, and a PhD.
Yeah.
But because I could self-fund myself, I was able to bypass that whole thing.
Oh, okay,
So
I see.
So it's with the help of my family and myself, I did the PhD without any government grants. So that's why it's my own thing I'm working on. There's no funds tied towards it. It's my money, so that's where money talks the quality of work. But the interesting thing is, while I was doing the PhD, we were still working on open source projects on the side, because you had to live in the UK somehow. So they were definitely great projects to work on. They helped me survive here for 2-3 years. It was crazy because you see most of your colleagues just doing this is the difference between academics, right? Academics, they had their weekends off, they work 5 days a week.
Yeah.
For me, the weekends are when I start working on my second job again. I have a laptop and I'm hiking, because if something goes down, I'll get called. In the middle of the Pentlands, I'll open the laptop and fix a bug, close it, and get back to hiking. When you run a startup, that's 24/7 work. So I learned a lot of experience, like what is it like working in these grueling timings. Sometimes you're woken up at 2 a.m, and that happens all the time when the company has a spike of users. So my experience is working/research, because if I didn't have money, I couldn't do the research further. So that you have to be capitalistic to survive that. And what I got very lucky is one of my personal projects. I got a company contacting me. They're called Companion. They work they set up sensors for old people's houses to track their well-being and so forth. They were willing to use my project in their company. And for example, when we have clients with the NHS, they are interfacing it to use, for example, my project. And we can now host our own servers across Scotland without having to pay cloud providers. And to them, it's a huge shrink in their bill.
Yeah.
So it's great to see, things are slowly picking up where my work, I can finally use my work to get contracts. And that took so long to build. So I have been working in numerous different types of companies, but never in a company for that long, like maybe 2-3 years in the company. But I've always worked part-time. I've never worked full-time in a company, because that gives me the freedom to switch along.
Yeah.
The first company I worked in, and it's very funny, they always say family culture and blah, blah, blah. When they think you're not needed, they just fire you like that. No questions asked. It's just fair. I'm not blaming them for that, but it's just the case, don't believe them. I prefer companies that just say, I want you for this. We're done with work.
Yeah. I guess one part of it is obviously kind of like brainwashing to ensure that people are feeling good about themselves. But I think it also, like playing on people's emotions is a really effective and cheap way of ensuring some things are getting done, right? Like if I won't pay you more, but I'll make you feel like you're a part of the family, and being here is great, and working overtime with the team is so wonderful.
You go for birthday party celebrations, but dinner nights, I said, why do you, if you're working in a company, you go home after you finish work. Why the hell are you going for dinners?
Yeah, it's, for me, and that's really interesting, your adventures. For me, it's also, but it's so jarring for us, and yet for, I think, majority of people, it isn't. And I think it comes back again to this fundamental principle, first principles thinking, as you said at the very beginning. Like, unless you're willing to look at the world the way the world is, you will be inclined to believe that they care for you, and this, work overtime for free is okay because the team is pulling all together. I remember this funny. So I have experience now in a big corporation, and it's just not for me. I think I'm wasting my potential there. And I remember this funny time when we've been made to work really, really hard over the weeks, right? And there was always the like, until signing, we're almost there. And the funny thing about we're almost there is we're almost there, and then on Friday the guy's like, hey guys, thank you so much for your help, that's amazing, you've done a great job. And then on Monday you're almost there again, there's no not only have I not felt any gratification on my own part in terms of like satisfying my needs as the job, but also I've been told this idea that just push through, and then there's gonna be this ephemeral stop to the pushing through, and it never is, and it's this weird motivator of like, we're almost there.
There's something they make you do. They make you more reactionary than prepared. This is what companies want you to do. They want you to, like, you see people, they're always reactionary. Oh, the world is doom and gloom. If you're prepared, that's the biggest threat to a company, because if you're that experienced in a company for that long, you can overtake them because you know the most efficient way to sustain them. And this is capitalism. You will actually, this happens in India a lot. You work in a restaurant, you'll see a guy working you'll see a waiter working in a restaurant. He's worked for maybe 5-6 years, and he says, wait a second, why am I working longer? Let me just start my own company that's the same thing, and he'll be a threat to this main guy. You've seen this in Edinburgh. There's certain restaurants which have gone through that phase. I know like 2 Kerala places and Greek places which I've heard similar stories where people split up and start their own restaurants. This is capitalism. So a company has to keep you in a mind-numbing state, otherwise you will be a threat to them. That's how I see this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense to me. Like, keeping you docile. I think that's a good word for it.
Because they need you at the same time, but they don't want you to be a threat at the same time.
And they don't want you to think you're so needed that you might be needed elsewhere.
Exactly.
It's this carrot and a stick kind of dynamic. Yeah, for sure.
The big companies love government regulation because they can say, job security, job safety net. I tell people the biggest insurance is you having multiple jobs. That is your insurance. So if one company fires you, you're like, okay, I have another one.
Yeah.
And your assets are your insurance, not the government's. Oh, the company can't fire me because the government is protecting me. I know so many cases where people haven't been paid off when they've been laid off.
Yeah.
So, and the company can twist its words and keep you as a slave for a long run. That's why I've never worked in a big company myself. Even if I get an offer, I'd be very hesitant.
For me, how I've gotten to join the company that I work for right now for another, I think, not so long anymore. I kind of feel that my life has been putting me through different experiences simply for the experience sake. Like I worked in a small team, really intense work in Kuwait, journaling, interviewing people, and then I work in a big corporation here, and I kind of feel that as you go through life, in some ways, to get to know what you like, you have to bounce off of what you don't, right? Yeah. And I'm sensing this narrowing of the path as I go. Yeah. But yeah, I fully agree with all you said. It's interesting because from the lens of my father, funnily enough, the company is the best thing that you can do, right? Which is why there is much less support for me in my family side on the idea of being entrepreneurial or whatever, because they don't do that, Yeah. And you're always giving advice through your own lens.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good. It's better to be. It's a safer place when you have a stronger foundation. One more point I would like to tie it on is the AI race right now. Have you seen surprisingly companies want to lay you off because of the so-called AI bubble, of the AI hype, or
Yeah.
and I mean we as computer scientists think it's bullshit, right? And do you feel the same way in the company? The nonsense of what AI is doing, like it's not even automating jobs, is what they claim.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what motivates them to fire people other than cutting costs.
Yes. So they claim that the mind-numbing jobs that people were doing, they can replace it with an AI agent.
Yeah.
The same, which never works most of the time.
Well, on that front, I'm not so sure whether it will never work. I'm pretty sure that my job, for example, at my level, could be substantially made more efficient. But
the point is, this automation's already happened. That's what I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, I see.
So it's not this AI is the worst way to do it, is what I'm saying. If you look at the 90s, that's the best way to look at technology. The era where, for example, when I run a company, I make sure when I hire someone, they have to automate what they do. Like, for example, that is their job security, is that they will have a lot of tasks to do, but whatever tasks they do, they have to do it well, and it has to be automated so that they don't have to touch it again. This increases curiosity, this lets them touch different domains, and it's very difficult to automate correctly, but you need to do it in the long term. For example, when I worked with PureNet, when I was speaking with the founder Peter Fleischner, it's one guy who's running a company that's, I don't know how much, but they're substantially profitable, and that's crazy that one person could automate, like running the servers, keeping the data centers, managing the flow of data, and they're scraping like 2-3 terabytes of data a month, which is a lot. And this is a form of automation that's already done. And documentation, you don't need, if you're using an LLM to write something, and another person's using an LLM to respond to you, that procedure shouldn't exist in the first place. You cancel out. That's what you should be doing in a company if you're running efficiently. Only the free market can fix this, because such companies would not exist because they'll be too bureaucratic.
Yeah.
They will not have. And this is my viewpoint. You don't need AI because you don't need them in the first place. The procedure shouldn't exist. You don't need certification to train your kid.
Yeah.
You don't need a certification to audit that you train your kid. Like, this is just bullshit created.
Yeah. It's a waste. I mean, it's just a way of making money where there is no productive activity. And
they want people to think the same way. That's what you notice a lot. If people have contrasting opinions, it's against the system.
Oh yeah. So that's the danger zone, right? Like if you need to fall into line, otherwise if you stand out, you might get cut down in a sense. Yeah.
They want people to work like an industrial machine, do exactly as they're told precisely, and that's how we're trained. If we think outside the box.
Yeah, we're if anything, what you said about automation, the automation is you in those companies, right?
Exactly.
My process of day-to-day work is automation.
Exactly. And for me, I like to automate things, but that's for me to get a mail server, but that's to set up my own stuff, I feel like I have some authority. I'm not saying I'm perfect,
Yeah, but I like to automate my dinners, like I am optimal in my cooking.
Exactly.
But that's for my benefit again, and my wife's, and
I'm not saying machines are bad, but I'm just saying you don't need an AI you don't need a fancy LLM. I think people should just learn to be more tech literate is the right word. You'll see how simple technology is. And just rewinding, like writing a document, there's a tool I recommend trying, org mode.
Org
mode. If you want to organize your life, it's an old tool in Emacs written. It's the best way. You can write things there once. You can generate a PowerPoint out of it. You can generate a website out of it. You can generate a load of stuff by just writing in one document format. And you can set a calendar against it that can link against your Google Calendar. And this is all done in the 90s. This is nothing new.
Yeah.
And all the new tools now just copy the features there and sell it for you. So do you use Notion, for example?
No.
Or do you use some sort of note-taking tool like Word or something?
Not necessarily. I mean, not for...
like for when you're taking notes, you must use some tooling, right? Like to write a document or something.
Oh, you mean at work?
Work or personally,
Oh, personally, I like with my
pen and paper, but that's the best one for sure.
Yeah,
but if you think at work they use Word and blah blah blah, if you use like something org mode, it's really it's hard to express.
Is Notion transcribing the things that a recording, for example?
Yeah. You mean does Notion is not? You mean org mode?
No, well, you said Notion.
The Notion is like an example of a paid tool over org mode.
Oh, I see.
It's basically something which they copied the features of org mode and they made
and they're selling.
And they're selling it, when it's already free in the net.
Yeah, I see.
And it's a stupid tool because it's if you'd rather learn how to use the proper tool because it's like a language, you know. If you learn a language that's more powerful, you can describe in more succinct form, so you can use lesser words but have a more meaning out of it. And that's what I think of, like, you know, these tools. And that's one thing I would like people to learn more about is self-host your own website, learn to self-host your own mail server. When you communicate, forget WhatsApp, use an open source tool like Signal or something, or self-host it. So when you communicate to your friend, you both have machines in your house and it only goes between the two of you. Encrypt a packet, send it so that no one can trace what you're doing. Governments hate it, but this is completely legal to do in a free society. This is like the fun stuff you should do. And it looks like a lot of effort, but once you learn this habit, you'll start looking at a lot of things where you'd say, you know what, I don't need a government service for this. For example, in a company using Microsoft for everything, right? You know, use this, that. Have you seen how slow and buggy phones have become these days? Anything is like a pain to set up, install.
Yeah.
Anything they want you to use, like decentralized tooling. But the minute you go off that, they call you a hacker. But you know, you're living this different lifestyle. You forget. For example, you won't be on social media. You don't care about Instagram. You will not have cheap dopamine because you're in this world of people who only care about, who care about rigorous stuff. It's like a different society altogether.
Oh yeah, I mean on that front, you know, for me, I don't think I've ever had a big problem with like Instagram and stuff, but cutting it down to basically zero is just wonderful. Like it's you know, the kind of conversation that you have in real life can never be emulated on a text message.
Never.
It's just not the same.
Exactly, and you see that I can tell the difference between someone who's on social media and is not by the way they communicate. For example, I like writing long messages and being contextual, and I say, okay, if it's long enough, let's have a call. I give you a link and I pop in, and I can fix a call with someone 2 months down the line and still make it exactly without even telling the person that are you coming or not. And this is the power.
Oh yeah.
This is the power of communication. Like when we came for the podcast, I didn't have to ask you there's a podcast. I knew you were going to have it at this date.
Yeah.
I just asked where's your house, for example, and I turned up. And this is the power of good communication. And historically, when you met people, for example, you just say, I'm going to meet you at this time. There was no phone or anything. You had to be respectful and be there exactly on time. And I think that mentality is very important. And it comes together with using the right tools, being tech literate, then your lifestyle, and it dictates how you live as a person.
I mean, it speaks volumes as well in terms of just being sticking to your word, right?
Yes.
Like the expediency of social media and quick dopamine fixes and sort of like quick dates, quick cars, quick food, quick dopamine. It basically puts under strain or maybe renders it completely obsolete any ability for you to check and to maintain that stronger relationship, right? An interesting experience that I've had, which I can share now, is I was supposed to go to BTC Prague conference in
in Czech Republic.
Czech. Due to different things, my wife changing jobs and all that, we've decided to cancel it, right?
Yeah.
It's too much of a hassle.
Is that in November, sorry? Or?
No, in June.
Okay,
in literally 3 weeks from now.
Oh wow, okay.
And yeah, I've made my peace with it, whatever. I've decided to sell it, and my fiat thought was, oh my days, I have a QR code ticket.
Yeah.
People will not trust me with the QR code ticket, so I will never be able to sell it because, you know, like if you're sending me the money, I want to see the money first before I send you the ticket. If I send you the ticket and you don't send me the money, I'm in, you know, trouble. And also I'm sending you a QR code. Potentially I could show up at the conference before you after selling you the ticket, and you would get scammed because of it, right? And so all these thoughts popped into my head, you know, I was like, oh my God, this is not going to work, this is not going to work. And then I popped it on Club Orange app for Bitcoiners, just, connecting with people that are interested in Bitcoin. And I sent a message saying like, you know, I have this ticket, it was cheaper then than it is now, so I'm going to ask the same price as before. And within 2 days, a guy was like, yeah, I'm up for it. Okay, send me your address, send me the money. I sent him the code, no problem.
No questions asked.
You can't have that with a person who is by default in this fear state of untrusting space, right? Yeah. So this, and to be honest, I kind of feel that we're finding people, like we're finding our tribe, like if you go for an event with whom you end up talking, might not determine the outcome of overall meeting, but certainly I feel it fairly quickly, whether someone is interested in talking with me and I'm interested in talking with them, and whether not. And I think social media makes it very difficult for us to do that.
Yes. It's all interlinked, but also you can see that like sometimes trust is something very simple. Like when I got my first job, like in after the internship plan, after Plan Scale, we had no contract. He just told me I'm going to pay you £25 an hour, for example. I said okay. I said if you don't transfer end of the month, I don't work. And that was it. He always transferred on time. We always worked. There was no contract. There was no anything. I just knew the money will come at some point. Yeah. And that trust is why you work longer, and that's more important than. And if you're in a community with such people, you can just do a transaction like this. And I mean, for him, maybe it's nothing in Bitcoin value, and it's not enough to care. But he's going to get a ticket, which is more of a bigger opportunity. Oh yeah,
the interesting thing, an interesting maybe follow up on that is, then as you said, it doesn't matter what government there is, because if you look at their track record, no matter who's there, there's always something going wrong, and always the promises that are being promised not delivered. You wouldn't meet with me if I cancelled every time for 3 times, or avoided, ghosted, did not open the door, whatever, and then every time I'll promise you that we'll be back, we'll be recording. But that's exactly what we do with the government, right?
And
every 4 years there is the promise of a better 4 years.
I mean, the thing is, people believe the government. It's a big mistake. I mean, so societies grow well not because of government, it's because of what people did individually.
Despite
exactly what the government does. So, I mean, that's why there's no point voting, like, in any sort of sense. Just focus on yourself. It'll be fine. If you don't agree with the country, leave it. That's all I think. And this is what I think. I mean, it's true what you just said right there. And so what's the plan with the podcast? Are you able to monetize it? Or?
Well, if anything, we can maybe talk about it after the show. I've kept it advertisement free. I've tried different ways. I did switch my hosting platform to Fountain, which allows me to monetize it directly. So if anyone is out there as a subscriber, they can directly send me sats, which is wonderful. But so far, I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So far, I've made probably an equivalent of 1 month cost of running it back.
Not too bad.
After 5 years, I think it's okay.
But I think it takes time. It's impressive that you still something is coming through.
No, for sure. It's as you said, like it takes
a long time.
Make like 10-20 years plan rather than do a 2-week. It's something that really encouraged me is I heard on Joe Rogan's podcast that majority of podcasters don't make it past 11th episode. And that it takes long to get there, but once you get there, you're in like the top, whatever percent, simply by maintaining
what we did. Just keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, one example, if you go to Europe, one thing I love about Europe and I travel is that you look at the cathedrals. It was built by generations. It's not something someone built. It's not like the buildings you see nowadays, which are built fast and quick.
Yes.
People built, and sometimes some buildings cannot be replicated even in modern architecture. Like in Belgium, that's one thing I enjoyed the most. Going in the outskirts cities and just seeing the cathedrals, like the one in Antwerp, was beautiful. And that's an example of what we should learn on. Sometimes it's also important to plan generations, not just even 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is understanding how the system works, right? Unless you do that, you're going to be incentivized to live in the moment in the state of fear.
Yes.
And it's very difficult for someone who lives in a state of fear, paycheck to paycheck, to consider building a cathedral.
But
you know,
but you can take the step to say, let me try something that gets me out of this state.
yeah, no, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, you know, it's like an upward spiral
Yeah.
if you decide to walk on it,
Yes.
or a downward spiral if you don't.
Yeah, it's the choice of a human being.
Yeah. Well, now, Akilan, I'm gonna finish off with a classic question, although we've already touched plenty. I always ask my conversation partners about maybe one thing that you'd like to share with me and the audience that you've not shared yet. It can be a word of advice, a motto. Maybe you want to say hi to your parents, although we've already done that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like something to leave them with that we've not discussed maybe. And we can discuss it as well if you want, or
something we've not told about.
Or something that resonates with whatever it is.
I would say, I don't know. I would just say, just keep pushing hard. I don't know. Keep enjoy life. Try different things, and but just standard wisdom. Keep trying. Be excited about the future. No, don't be depressed.
Yeah.
There's always something exciting to look for.
I think that's a big part, right? Like the I've heard a discussion today with my wife and our mentor, let's say, and we were talking how you can tell by the focal point of people's story attention whether they are excited or upset about their life, right? And it often is that if someone's constantly looking back, they are not happy with what's going on, and they're not hopeful about the future. Some people might even be reminiscing on some mistakes that were done 10 years ago, and they're still carrying that burden. And then the difference, it's a huge difference between then talking to someone who's so excited about tomorrow that they can't wait.
There was a funny thing my friend says, that if you're sad, you're a communist. If you're happy, you're a capitalist. We can go with that. I don't want to be a communist, so I prefer to. It's okay. Like I like the one. Can I just do one more quote? I like one thing that Novak Djokovic says.
Sure.
He says it's okay to feel angry, to feel sad, to feel the emotions. But what makes a professional athlete different from someone is the time it takes to recover from one state to the other. So you go through the emotion, and you quickly bounce back into the right track, and a professional can do it in the least amount of time, but it's important to still go through it, and that's what makes you stronger and resilient in anything you do. And tennis is a sport where you have to do it a lot. You can get frustrated hitting a bad shot, but if you're mentally down, you've lost the match already. And it's not like a football where there's a timer counting down. Anybody can come back at any point in time, so you have to be back to your performance state immediately. So that's a very important advice I've learned from him, for example.
That's awesome. Yeah. If it's just the recovering quickly, compressing, making it more efficient, right?
Yes, exactly.
Essentially, on the data point. No, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining, and we're gonna go for a little walk now and enjoy a off-camera conversation. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. I'll make sure to link some of Akilan's stuff, whatever he'd like to. Feel free to reach out if you want to work with him, and I'll connect you. Other than that, please make sure, if you did enjoy it, like, subscribe, do whatever there is to support the show. And other than that, have a wonderful week. Thank you so much.
See you then. Bye bye.